Hi, I'm Paul Roberts. This is Conscious Counseling 101. Today we're going to do something a little bit different. I want to talk to my son, have him look at this video, and I figured other people could also benefit from it. This is going to be about logic, using science and the probability curve to figure out problems. I was talking with my wife today. She was a great student, and so many of the things she knows is because you can read about it, you can learn about it. Whenever I'm out with my family, I normally come to the conclusion of something very quickly, and it seems like I have a vast array of knowledge, but I really don't. What I'm doing is I'm processing what I do, and I'm thinking very quickly, and it seems as though I have this vast knowledge, but I arrive at the answer to most things logically. I also use these same logic things in my perspective counseling services, and this is one of the reasons why I'm doing this today. So we have a question. Got a flat tire, got a great big nail in my tire. And my son was with me at the time, and I'm trying to get him to tell me, how do you think this happened? He's got a lot of the same memories of our past as I do, and he has enough information to solve the problem, but he's not able to so far. And I want to teach him how to think. I remember one time, when I was a child, I could not think. My father asked me the first riddle I had ever heard. I think the first one was when I was really small. What's black and white and red all over? And of course we all know what that is. But the next one was the real riddle. When I was older, I should have been able to get it. But I didn't, because I didn't know what riddles were about. This one was, how far can a deer run into the woods? And I couldn't figure that out. And I was probably 11 or 12. And I couldn't figure that out. Well, now we've had enough riddles, we can figure out, well, what makes a riddle and how do they think? We can figure things out like that, but again, that's knowledge-based thinking. Well, I'd like to show you something today that is knowledge-based thinking, but there really isn't very much knowledge to it, because the heightened intelligence or the heightened conscious, what they really do on the way towards wisdom is they use a lot less, and they do a lot more with it. I can take a situation and come up with an answer, both in my life and in other circumstances in life, to make it seem as though I know more than I actually do. And in a way, I do know more than I actually do. Why? Because I'm using thought to come up with a conclusion where my knowledge lacks. And so we're going to do this today for my son and anybody else that can take advantage of this simple lesson here. All right, so let's start off with drawing a timeline, okay? Okay, this is today. This is when I first started driving. I was 16, all right? First started driving. So, 1980, I guess, 1982, okay? Okay, so this is 2019, okay, 2019. Right here, there's an incident just the other day where we got a flat tire. Okay, great big 3-inch nail in the tire. Now, from 1982 all the way to 2017, this whole period of time, up to about 2012, 2019, we have 1982. This is when I started driving approximately. This is today. The incident happened the other day where I got the nail in the tire, the 3-inch nail. From 1982 to about 2012, and my memory's not perfect here, but let's say I got 1 or 2 nails, one every 10 years, okay, in my tire. Got a flat tire, okay? We're not counting blowouts, we're not counting anything else, just the nail in the tire, okay? So we're looking at, for this period of 30 years, okay, 30 years, we're looking at 1 every 10 years. Okay. 1 every 10 years, all right? Then, for this space of time right here, which is a 5-year space of time right there, after that 30-year period, we got 5 or 6 nails in our car tire right there. This was the HOA years. People were in it trying to make something out of this HOA so that they could live a better life by getting on the board, making it what they needed it to be for their investors, and making it so that they could monopolize the whole neighborhood of 220 homes. And when my wife and I sold everything we had to come out here and move to California, we saw what they were doing because I was on the board. And I said, oh, that ain't going to fly. And I'm not in it to make money. As you know, if you're following conscious counseling, I'm in it for ideas. I'm in it for a heightened conscious. I'm in it for everything a person was created to be and think. I'm not in it to do the shallow, trivial thing that traps all mankind, being all about money. And so, got all these things. Then we go a period of another, when this is over, from 2017 to 2019, we go a period of about 2 years. This isn't drawn to scale. Nothing. So, 30 years, virtually nothing. 30 years, virtually nothing. All the driving I did. And I did a lot of driving because I'm taking my brothers to their soccer and their baseball and doing all the errands for my mom and dad. They're paying for the gas. I love driving. I got a 69 Dodge Charger. Got it all. Everything's great, and having a fun time. I go everywhere they ask me to go. They pay for the gas. Hardly anything. I was doing stunt driving, all kinds of stuff. This last 10-year period, construction zone of a cabin, and in here, houses we were building, still nothing. You'd expect nails to be on the ground, right? All these hits in this 5-year period with the HOA, where I saw what was going on and said, we're not having that. This is wrong. All those nails in the tires, okay? Then a period of 2 years, nothing. And just the other day, a nail in the tire. Well, all right, 2 years and nothing. And go along a little bit, there's a nail in the tire. Probably don't think much of it. But here's where it comes down to the law of probability. Right about here, I'll say this to the end, Max. I'm going to give you the whole lesson before you can ever decide what it is. Here's the law of probability. Let's say, I'll do a little tiny model up here. Let's say you have a whole bunch of little dots or little pins. Okay? There's a whole bunch of little dots. And there would be more than this. The more you make, the greater the greater the symbolism of what would happen. And what you would do is you would drop a ball or something, and every time you drop the ball from the middle point, it would go, and each time you hit one of these, it would decide which way is it going to go, which way is it going to go, which way is it going to go, which way is it going to go. And every time you dropped it, it would go a different way, and the random occurrence would allow for each one to have its own which way is it going to go. And what would happen is if you dropped enough balls, eventually you'd see a chart, you'd see a graph, okay? And the graph would be like a bell curve. Most of the balls from the central point, once they do all these decisions, every time they hit this pin, are going to land so that they were piled up. They would follow this probability curve, just by pure chance. Some of them are going to go, oh, okay, I'm going this way, I'm going this way, I'm going this way, I'm going this way. Very few are going to go way out to the outside like that. So very limited chance they can come all the way out there. Very few will come all the way out to here. Most of them are going to go 50-50 the whole way down and land somewhere in this main area right here. That's a probability curve. That's a scientific thing that you just really can't dismiss. There's a certain amount of chance in our universe, in the way things are set up in the physical realm of the universe, that we can observe. And this is the probability curve. So I use a lot of this probability curve in my logical thinking with conscious counseling and everything else I do in my life to appear as though I have more knowledge. Why do I have more knowledge? Because I have knowledge of physical things. And when you live in a physical realm universe, all of a sudden you have knowledge of so many things. Because so many things are on basic intelligence things that you can have. That's why it's so important. What we teach here at Conscious Counseling is so important because what you can do through logic and your perspective counseling and your perspective way that you look at things, you can modulate who you are to a certain extent based on how you look at something. That's why this is important today. So this is the law of probability curve. The farther you go out, the less likely it is that something can get there. Because it'd have to go, yes, that way, that way, that way, that way. And every single time it'd have to be pushed further, further, but the chances are much less that it'll do that. The chances are more likely with the 50% chance on every single pin that it'll go down. Okay? That's your probability curve. So right here, over top of the HOA thing where we said, no, that ain't the way it's going to be. Lots of tire nails. Lots of flats. Not a single one proven. This is all theoretical, what I'm sharing today. Not a single one proven. The other day, after outside the realm of this first part of my life where hardly anything ever happened, even with doing construction sites, renovating houses, up in the mountains, doing a cabin, all this other stuff, hardly anything. Here, every single time, let's mention the length of the screw. The length of the screw is about like that. Every time. Okay? Bunch of them. Right there. Just the other day, a 3-inch nail comes out. We're out of the HOA, well into the next 30 years, hopefully, of my life or more. Get a big nail in there. Bigger than anything we'd seen before. Nobody would think anything of it. Nobody. But Max, here it comes. Have you come up with it yet? Why did it happen right here? Why? What event transpired on this day? The day that we went for the first time in my whole life to the Hollywood sign. I've been wanting to do that for over half my life. Past all this crap, over to here. What happens in Griffith Park? You get all kinds of people from the entire Hollywood, LA, every surrounding area. Like you said, it's the middle of the whole wheel where our whole life and everybody else's life happens. The Hollywood sign is. Guy there feeding coyotes. I said, Max, you're going to be a conservationist. You're studying zoology. You're going to help to be a steward of the animals. You're going to help people to learn how to use the resources of this world. If you can't go up to this person and say, don't feed those coyotes, because if you do, they may harm you or the next person after you, or they may become more habituated into life, that people are fine. They're going to be there where they shouldn't be. They're going to be encouraged to come back. They're going to hurt somebody most likely, or they'll be seen as a nuisance and taken away or shot. I said to the man, please don't do this. We're just informing you. Max, this is what you're going to be all about in your life. Here you have a perfectly viable violation right here. Let's go talk to the man nicely. So we did. That's all. We didn't threaten to call anybody. I thought to myself, he might have saw me later on my phone trying to gather the troops and head on for the thing, and he might have thought we were calling somebody. Or maybe he thought we were calling somebody even if we didn't. But the point is, what's the chance that on that day wasn't caused by that person? Astronomically high chance that it wasn't. Most likely was. Okay? Now, why do we believe, Max, you're your own person. I know you're studying religion in school. I've exposed you to Jesus' teachings. Why do we believe that most people are in this area right here? Even though their actions might make something happen out here that's extreme. Why do we believe that most people are in that area right there in life? Because Jesus said in one of his teachings that the road to salvation is narrow and only a few will find it. But the road leading to destruction is broad and almost all are on it. This is a faith-based thing that I use in my conscious counseling. The sense that only a few would even come to look for counseling because they need to know something's wrong makes them in these areas. I don't advertise, per se. Very few find me. My hits are low. I'll help anybody for free. But only a few people realize something's wrong and want to do something about it that they don't believe the masses can help them with. And this is even if they're not exposed to religion. If they just think, gee, something's missing in my life, I have a problem, I wonder if this guy could help, I'm going to go searching or find me. Okay? Very few do that. Other people like the big churches, the big Anthony Robbins, the big gurus, people that have the beards and the special clothes and things like that. They must certainly have what's necessary. They fall into that. Licensing and things like that. I don't have any of that. I derive what I have through heightened analytical thinking and perspective counseling. This is why I appear to be different than most people in the world. This is why I appear to be able to solve most problems very quickly before anybody else can do it if I'm sitting there right there with them. Okay? This is why. Because I realize the Jesus teaching is that most people are this. The few that I see might be more in these categories or in here. But that nail was probably put in by that man. Okay? What can I do with that? Nothing. But I did want to say we need to be aware of these things as we go through life. And not be cowards and not do what we need to do, but be aware that when we put ourselves out there, people are going to be in this area. We may take risks that may eventually harm us in some way or even get us killed. You went all the way to Santa Barbara and back with your mother driving. She wouldn't know how to handle a tire if it went flat, blew out. You put our lives in danger. Okay? I could handle it. She didn't even know she was losing air in the tire. And finally I told her, when she called me, blow it up with the pump in the back and come on home, we'll get it fixed the next day. Put her life in danger. As stewards of the animal, and I said to the guy that fixed it, I said, you can't do anything good, because if you do anything good that rubs anybody the wrong way, you automatically are that guy. Even if your intent is good, no one will believe you. They automatically assume. This is what I love about people. Nobody thinks they're in here. Nobody. But almost everybody is. And they act as if they know that almost everybody is. In other words, they're paranoid, they're precautious. They don't get on anybody unless they're ready to get into a fist fight. The truth is, if you're not heightened conscious, the chances are, if you don't consider everything like we do here at Conscious Counseling, you probably are in that category. That's the truth. And we need to all face that. Now, if you found this is kind of one of those outside things. Maybe some more people will come here and they'll ask for counseling. I'll help in any way I can. I don't charge for my counseling because I believe that if it's really about this narrow road that you could be on instead of this broad, you want to reach out and give that away for free. You don't want to charge for that, because if you kept somebody from seeing that importance of what they could gain, you'd be almost responsible for their failure to gain, and that'd be on your shoulders. That's why I don't charge. All right. So that's that for that, Max. I just want to say one other thing, though. Every once in a while, and even though we don't know this, every once in a while I'll be wrong. Every once in a while I'll be wrong. A similar situation like this happened the other day. Okay? And I'm just going to show you, just for fairness. You go a whole life from the time you get your phone and your email to today, the dot-com boom, huge spike in spam and calls, huge spike, and it would have kept going along like that if it weren't for spam filters that could bring it down and the do not call list that can bring it down. Well, just recently got another spike, and I think it's because the president says we got this great economy and everything, but really it's only the people that are high up that are making the money. The regular person's not making it. You're getting a spike in spam. You're getting a spike in calls. Now, of course, your number's been listed. The longer it's listed, the more chances you'll get on lists where that happens. And that's all a part of it. But this is the part I want to show you where you can't always be right. And remember, this is always just logical deduction. It's not always right. So I tell my wife, okay, we got this spike. let's make sure we're back on the do not call list. We did it back here when we were in Florida. We did it back here, and it helped. Now today again, I said, let's get on the do not call list. Let's do that again. Maybe they'll give us a boost and have less spam and telephone calls. So she's going to do that, right? Well, a couple of weeks later, I get a message on my voicemail thing that says, dial this number or press 1 to be on the do not call list or whatever. I go, this is weird. Why didn't they just, I don't know. I just thought it was weird. Well, it looks like my wife's taking care of it, but why do I have to do it? So I go to my wife and I say, because I don't click on things and I don't call back people, okay? I always go to the regular number and I call it back. Unless somebody wants something that's a friend or is saying, hey, I'm trying to touch base with you, Paul, and then I may call them back, like for counseling or anything like that. I don't even answer my phone. I said to my wife, I said, so you called the do not call thing. I got a thing on my thing. It says I got to pick it up and dial this number or whatever, or dial 9 or whatever. She said no. She said no, she hadn't called yet. So in my mind, I went through all this, did the original call, had this come down, had this spike, went all the way past this, in my mind, thought there's no way that this whole huge period of 30 years could have gone by, and just a few days after she was talking about the do and do not call list, that spam comes in, and never gotten one before like that. I automatically assumed the same thing as the nail. But in this case, I was incorrect. And it was a provable thing. The nail will never be proven. He's long gone. But this is provable. This is outlandishly outside of this probability curve. Way, way out here. Way, way out here. Not in the middle, like that guy was. Of course he put the nail in there, most likely. There's always a chance he didn't. But of course, most likely he didn't. There's no way. To my way of thinking, this call, this do not call spam that I got on my voicemail, had to be in here. It had to be. The close proximity over the 30-year period of the time I talked to my wife. It had to be there. See, don't be ever overconfident. On Conscious Counseling 101, we talk about do not be certain of anything, let alone religion or what another person says. Don't be confident of anything. Always question. Always be willing to look at things from every angle and never make a determination. And even when you think you've made a determination, come back at it again and say, did I make that determination correct? Has anything changed it today? Is there anything I could do to heighten my conscience and make myself realize there could be some other perspective on this? This is why you do it. It was just a fluke. A fluke that in my mind had to be in here, was way out here. If I was confident it had to be there without even asking my wife, I might have picked up the phone and done what it said, because the chances are so astronomically small that number came in right at that time. But I don't operate that way. Like I said, I do the touch the wall philosophy. If you go to the video on how not to be an alcoholic, you'll understand what the touch the wall philosophy is. I could talk about it here, but we're already long enough for this simple logic video. I operate with redundancy. If all else fails, have redundancy and backup plans. Okay? So I didn't do it, even though I thought the chances of it not being what it was way out there. I didn't do it. I still asked. Good thing I did, because it was a fluke. Now, you don't want to do things that could be flukes and make your whole life standing on that. That's like putting your life on the sand, where the sea can come in and wash it away. You make your foundation on that, you're going to fall down. Your house is going to fall down. Jesus also has a teaching on that. Don't build your house on the sand. Build your house on the rock. So I use that theory or teaching. It's not a theory, because it's a theory in the sense that you have to have faith-based, right? Jesus' teachings are faith-based. I say in a lot of my videos they're not faith-based. They actually work even if Jesus wasn't real. But for the sense of this thing today, if you build your house on the rock, you put your little house up there on the rock, that won't get taken away. Whereas the sands could get taken away. You build your house on the rock. This is a Jesus teaching. And the reason I bring this up is because when I didn't call on that, even though I knew it had to be this, I was wrong. It was that. It was way out there. It was just a fluke. But because I had the redundancy rule in effect, and the way I operate, and it's not obsessive compulsive. I'm as flexible as anybody you'll ever see. But there's a time for foolish consistency. If it becomes wise consistency, then it serves you. And there's a time when foolish consistency is indeed the hobgoblin of little minds. You need to understand the difference between wise consistency and foolish consistency. If you do, you won't stumble when this happens. You'll be built on the rock. You'll have redundancy plans in place, and you'll know why you have them for just this type of occurrence. So that your life doesn't go down the tubes if one crazy thing happens. Because you're founded on so many things that are going to stand the test of times, that are going to stand whatever might come at you. That's the rock. And I use these perspectives to show Jesus' teachings in practical ways that I've never seen anybody do. And this is one of the things you can gain through conscious counseling. If you look at some of these videos, or you want to talk to me about personally things that are going on in your life that I can help you to see from a different point of view that nobody else has seen, I can do those things. There will be no charge. If it ever got to the point where you needed ongoing help, then I might say, okay, if you're going to take a certain amount of my time up each week and we're doing phone calls and things like that, maybe then I might do it, because that's a different thing. But it doesn't usually come to that, because what I do is I try to offer everything that you need in every single video, so that if you never speak to me again, you have everything you need to see and become everything you need to be. But my son, who lived under my very roof, didn't have the ability to have this eaten at him. I've always told him he has laws. He has flaws in his logic. I gave him a few days to think about this. He didn't come up with it. Think about it now. Think about this lesson today that I've got on this video that other people can use. Don't look negatively at other people and say because they're all on the road of the broad road paved to destruction that they're all negative. Because here's why. You don't know who they are. And even if you think you know who they are one day, they could change the next. Remember the third Jesus parable that we're going to use in this teaching today, and then we're going to close. The one about the seeds of the weeds that were sown into the good field, that the reporters that were tending that field came to the master and told about, that the enemy had done that during the night. What are we going to do? Our field is going to be overrun with the weeds. And Jesus said, let the weeds grow up with the plants. Don't try to get them out of there now. You may pluck up some of the good plants, and that would be bad, because those good plants are so valuable. Don't do that. He said, let them all grow up. And at the end, when the harvest is done, and all the good plants are harvested, and we have all the good, then we will bundle up the weeds and throw them into the fire. Remember, the people that you think are in this area, most of them probably will, in the law of probability, are in that area. But some may not be. And we must treat everybody with compassion and empathy, no matter what they look like or how they act. Because even if they might be a weed at the time that we're observing them, and we can't possibly know, they may later on come to see. And I'll say one more. I said we're going to stop with 3. I'm going to do one more because it just came to me. Two sons were asked to work in the field by the father. And one said, I'll go. And the other said, no, I will not. The one that said, I'll go, he didn't do it. Sloughed it off. The one that said, I will not, went and changed his mind later and said, no, I need to. I'm going to go do it. Well, in front of the person, the one looked better, the one that was a yes man. But Jesus doesn't see things that way. He sees what's in the heart. He's not concerned about trivial, frontal things that we show and display. He looks down at those things. In fact, he tells us to give our giving, if we give our giving in secret, not to tell everybody about it so we can be exalted by man. Those two people, the one that made the right choice was the one that thought about it and thought better of it and did better. That is who we need to be, ultimately. If we don't make sense of this today, by thinking about it, we may make sense of it eventually. We don't know at what stage various people are in their lives. We can't analyze all those things without being in their head. If we even tried to, we'd be overly judgmental. So just because we know that Jesus' teachings say most people are here, he also says that we're not to judge, lest we'll be judged as we judge. So remember, I'm giving you tools that I believe fully in. I've demonstrated them through logic. Remember, don't operate under these things as if they're hard and fast rules and go and try to rule the world and push everybody down. That's not why these rules exist and why they're so powerful for people like us. They're to keep us out of trouble and to help gain wisdom and insight and heightened conscious, even on the practical level of how we use them in our daily lives. That's what these things are for, and they're great gifts. You'd be surprised how few people know they're there right in front of them. Anyway, I hope this helped a few people today. I hope it helps Max, my son, as he goes on and sees these types of things more and looks for the patterns. And hopefully the teachings that are in him will help him to analyze everything as he's going through it, so he won't succumb to vices and ills of society thinking that they're norm because so many people say that these are the right ways to do things. I hope that those things are there naturally. Here's another little thing to add, another huge thing, all-encompassing thing to add into your utility belt. We should all have these in our utility belts. The essence of the fiber of our being should be made up of grandiose equipment like this that we're talking about today. Everybody should have this. If we did, I hope you're not a Trump supporter, but if you did, you wouldn't buy any of that junk that you're getting. You'd see it for what it is. There's two muscles in that man's body: the ability to make lots of money, no matter what it takes, and the ability to stay out of trouble. A lot of people wanted that power in our president. You know what? A president of this country has to have way more ability than that. And that's where real intelligence is. That you hear him talking about his intelligence all the time? No, he's shifty and crafty and knows how to get out of trouble and knows how to make things happen when he wants to for his own personal gains. But I'm telling you, is there any other type of intelligence that you see? No. This doesn't even require that much knowledge. It's basic stuff. But when you apply it to your life, you could go a long way. My hope is that you'll see that. And if there's anything else you'd like to talk about along these lines, I'll be glad to help you with those things too, if they're more personal, if you want to see more of a connection type of thing. Okay, and review some of the other videos, because everything you need to know for life is in those things, unless you want to look at specifics. I'm Paul Roberts, and this is Conscious Counseling 101. Signing off for today, folks.